Why do so many men, after decades of living, look back and wish they had known certain truths earlier? Why does wisdom, it seems, often arrive only when it's too late to fully capitalize on it? Life, as the Stoics remind us, is a journey full of trials and lessons, yet the same mistakes and regrets echo across generations. In this video, we will explore 8 powerful Stoic lessons that men, more often than not, learn far too late in life. These lessons are not just philosophical abstractions, they are practical guides for living with courage, clarity, and purpose. What if you could fast-track your growth by learning these lessons now, instead of decades down the line? What if you could avoid the pitfalls of overthinking, dissatisfaction, and missed opportunities? You see, life tests us every day, and the way we respond shapes our path. The ancient Stoics understood this better than most, and their wisdom still resonates today. Imagine living a life of unshakable resilience, where no external event can disturb your peace, where you have full control over your mind and emotions. What would that look like? Stick with me through these lessons, and you'll find that the Stoic approach not only helps us make sense of the world, but provides the tools to navigate it effectively. Let's dive into these 8 lessons, and by the end of this journey, you may just find yourself thinking, why didn't I learn this sooner? 1. Your mind is your best friend and worst enemy. How often do you find yourself trapped in negative thoughts, replaying past mistakes, or worrying about the future? The Stoics understood that our minds, when left unchecked, can be our worst enemies. At the same time, a disciplined mind can be our greatest ally. Marcus Aurelius, the great Stoic philosopher and Roman emperor, often reflected on this in his meditations, reminding himself that the happiness of your life depends upon the quality of your thoughts. But how do we train our minds to be our greatest support, rather than our downfall? The first step is awareness. Too many of us let our minds run on autopilot, reacting to every situation emotionally without ever questioning the source of those emotions. Why are you upset when someone cuts you off in traffic? Why does a single comment from a coworker linger in your mind for days? The Stoics would say, it's not the events themselves that disturb us, but our judgments about them. So, how do we control our judgments? This is where the discipline of Stoicism comes into play. The Stoics teach us to observe our thoughts and ask, is this within my control? More often than not, the answer is no. We can't control what other people say or do, but we can control how we interpret it, and therein lies our power. Consider the last time you felt overwhelmed. Did you pause and reflect, or did you allow your mind to spiral into anxiety and frustration? Imagine if, instead of reacting, you took a moment to breathe and reminded yourself that you are the master of your thoughts. In that pause, you reclaim control. This is the essence of Stoic practice. But beware, the mind, left untrained, will always revert to its natural state of fear and insecurity. That's why daily reflection is so crucial. Marcus Aurelius would often write down his thoughts at the end of each day, examining where he succeeded and where he allowed his mind to drift. By doing this, he strengthened his mental discipline and stayed grounded in his Stoic principles. Have you ever thought about how your mind influences your actions and how those actions shape your life? If not, now is the time. Don't let your mind be your enemy. Train it to be your greatest ally. You'll find that with practice, your mind becomes a source of strength, guiding you through life's challenges with clarity and purpose. As we continue this journey, remember that everything starts with the mind. If you can master your thoughts, you can master your life. In the next lesson, we'll explore why overthinking can be one of the biggest obstacles to living with peace and clarity. 2. Overthinking worsens things. How many times have you caught yourself stuck in a loop of thoughts, overanalyzing every possible scenario? Overthinking is a trap that many men fall into, and it often leads to paralysis rather than action. The Stoics understood this all too well. They warned against allowing our minds to become overwhelmed by unnecessary worries or imagined outcomes. As Epictetus, one of the great Stoic teachers, said, "We suffer more often in imagination than in reality." Overthinking creates problems that do not exist. It magnifies small issues into mountains, and it distracts us from the present moment. But why do we do it? Why do we allow our minds to be consumed by endless analysis? It's often because we fear uncertainty. The human mind craves control and certainty. But life doesn't offer either of these things. The Stoics remind us that the world is unpredictable, and we can't control the future. What we can control is how we respond to it. Ask yourself, when was the last time overthinking led to a positive outcome? Did it ever help you find a solution? Or did it leave you feeling more confused and anxious? The Stoic response to this is simple. Action is the antidote to overthinking. Instead of getting lost in your thoughts, take a step forward. When faced with uncertainty, ask yourself, what is within my control right now? Then, act on that. Don't wait for the perfect moment or the perfect plan. Those things don't exist. Life is full of risks, and waiting for everything to be certain will only lead to missed opportunities. Have you ever spent hours worrying about what someone thought of you, only to realize later that it didn't matter at all? This is the classic trap of overthinking. Stoicism teaches us to detach from these concerns. What someone else thinks of you is outside of your control. Why waste energy on it? Instead, focus on your own actions and how you can live according to your values. Overthinking also has a way of keeping us trapped in inaction. The more we think, the more we imagine worst-case scenarios, and the more we convince ourselves not to take any risks. This fear of failure prevents us from moving forward. But remember, as the Stoics would say, failure is not something to be feared. It is an inevitable part of life. In fact, failure is often the best teacher. When you find yourself sinking into overthinking, practice mindfulness and return to the present. One technique the Stoics used was to reflect on death, not in a morbid way, but as a reminder that life is short and wasting time on needless worries is foolish. In the grand scheme of things, many of the problems we overthink about are insignificant. So, how do you break the cycle of overthinking? Take action, no matter how small. Move toward your goal, even if you don't have all the answers. With each step, you will gain more clarity and your anxiety will diminish. The Stoics believed that we should live according to nature, which means acting in accordance with reason and not letting our minds be clouded by excessive thought. Overthinking is a form of self-sabotage. It distracts you from the present and prevents you from living a fulfilling life. The next time you catch yourself spiraling into unnecessary thoughts, pause and ask, what is the next best action I can take? Then do it. The more you practice this, the less power overthinking will have over you. As we move forward, remember that action is the key to breaking free from the prison of overthinking. In the next lesson, we'll explore how everything in life is temporary and why understanding this truth can help us live with greater peace and acceptance. 3. Everything is temporary. We often live as though the good times will last forever, and we fall into despair when the bad times seem endless. But the Stoics teach a vital lesson. Everything is temporary. Joy, sorrow, success, failure, none of these states are permanent. This idea can be both a comfort and a reminder to remain grounded in the present. Have you ever been in a situation that seemed hopeless at the time, only to look back later and realize it was just a passing moment? The Stoics remind us that we should not attach too much weight to any one experience, whether good or bad. As Marcus Aurelius wrote, "The universe is change. Our life is what our thoughts make it." Change is the only constant, and clinging to impermanent things will only cause suffering. When life is going well, we should enjoy it fully, but with the awareness that it will not last forever. This doesn't mean we shouldn't be happy. It means we should be grateful. By understanding the transient nature of life, we can appreciate the good times without becoming attached to them. It's the attachment that causes pain when things inevitably change. Similarly, when we face difficult times, we should remind ourselves that this too shall pass. No hardship lasts forever, and no suffering is eternal. When you're in the midst of a struggle, it's easy to feel like the situation is permanent, but Stoicism teaches us to zoom out and see the bigger picture. Life is a series of seasons, and each season, whether good or bad, eventually gives way to the next. Are you holding on to something that no longer serves you? Perhaps it's a past success that you wish you could relive, or maybe it's a failure that haunts you. Either way, Stoicism teaches us to let go of what is no longer within our control. The past is gone, the future is uncertain, and the only thing we truly have is the present moment. The Stoics often used the practice of memento mori, or remembering death, to keep this lesson in mind. By reflecting on our mortality, we gain perspective. Life is short, and wasting it on regrets about the past or fears about the future is foolish. Instead, we should focus on living fully in the present, knowing that every experience, good or bad, is temporary. Have you ever noticed how quickly life changes? One moment you're celebrating a victory, the next you're dealing with a setback. The Stoics understood that this is the nature of life. Nothing stays the same for long. By accepting this, we can navigate life's ups and downs with greater ease and equanimity. As you reflect on this lesson, think about the areas of your life where you're resisting change. Are you clinging to the past, hoping to recapture a moment that's long gone? Or are you afraid of the future, trying to control something that's beyond your reach? Stoicism teaches us that peace comes from accepting the flow of life and understanding that everything is temporary. In the next lesson, we'll explore the importance of living in the present and why so many men waste their lives dwelling on the past or worrying about the future. 4. The importance of being present. How much of your life is spent reliving the past or fantasizing about the future? If you're like most men, far too much. The Stoics were acutely aware of this human tendency, and they emphasized the importance of living fully in the present. In fact, the ability to remain present and fully engaged with what's happening right now is one of the cornerstones of Stoicism. Marcus Aurelius, in his Meditations, frequently reminded himself of this. Do not act as if you had 10,000 years to throw away. Death stands at your elbow. Be good for something while you live, and it is in your power. The message here is clear. Don't waste time. The present is all you truly have, and it's where life happens. But why do we spend so much time outside the present moment? Often it's because we're either yearning for the good old days or anxiously anticipating the future. We replay past mistakes or triumphs in our heads, wishing we could go back, or we obsess over what might happen next, trying to control the uncontrollable. This kind of thinking only pulls us away from the life we're living right now. Have you ever found yourself zoning out in a conversation because your mind is elsewhere? Maybe you're thinking about a work project, a family issue, or something that hasn't even happened yet. In those moments, you're not truly living. You're merely existing. The Stoics understood that the present is all we ever truly have, and they encourage us to be fully engaged with it. To live stoically is to be here, now. But how do you cultivate presence in a world full of distractions? The first step is awareness. Start by noticing when your mind drifts to the past or the future. Don't judge yourself for it. Simply recognize it and gently bring your focus back to the present. This is a practice that takes time, but it's incredibly powerful. You might ask, is it wrong to think about the future? Should I not plan ahead? Of course, planning is necessary. The Stoics were not against forward thinking or preparation, but they warned against living in the future. When you allow thoughts of the future to consume you, you become disconnected from the present, which is where you have the power to act. The future is shaped by what you do now, not by endless worrying or fantasizing about it. On the flip side, many men also fall into the trap of living in the past. They cling to memories of better times or agonize over mistakes. But the past is gone, and no amount of thinking will change it. The Stoic philosopher Seneca once wrote, "What is the use of worrying about things which are not in our power? They are past and done with, and no amount of thought can bring them back." So how can you break free from the chains of the past and the future? One powerful Stoic technique is to cultivate a sense of purpose. When you have a clear sense of why you are living and what you are striving for, it becomes easier to stay focused on the present. Purpose anchors you in the here and now, giving your life direction and meaning. Do you have a purpose that drives you? Or do you find yourself drifting aimlessly between past regrets and future anxieties? If you feel lost, Stoicism teaches that purpose is not something you find. It's something you create through your actions. Start by asking yourself what values you want to live by, and let those values guide your decisions in the present. When you're fully present, life becomes richer. The small moments, the details, the people around you, everything comes into sharper focus. You begin to notice things you've overlooked because you were too distracted by your own thoughts. By living in the present, you live more fully. As we move to the next lesson, keep in mind that being present is not a passive state. It's an active choice to engage with life as it is, not as you wish it would be. And when you do that, you'll find that many of the worries and anxieties that plague you start to fade away. Now, let's explore another Stoic lesson. The biggest risk in life is not taking any risks at all. 5. The biggest risk is not taking risks. Do you often find yourself hesitating, fearful of making the wrong move, only to later regret not acting at all? The Stoics understood that the greatest risk in life is not taking any risks. Inaction, driven by fear of failure or uncertainty, often leads to more regret than any mistake ever could. As Seneca famously said, "It is not because things are difficult that we do not dare. It is because we do not dare that things are difficult." Too often, men wait for the perfect time to act, the ideal circumstances when all the stars align. But here's the truth: there is no perfect time. Life is full of uncertainty, and if you wait for guarantees, you'll be waiting forever. The Stoic approach is to take bold action, not recklessly, but with the understanding that failure is a natural part of the process. Have you ever regretted not doing something more than actually doing it? Perhaps it was an opportunity at work, a relationship, or a personal goal that you let slip away because you were too afraid to take the leap. In Stoicism, courage is one of the 4 cardinal virtues, and it is essential for living a meaningful life. Without courage, we remain stagnant, and our potential remains unfulfilled. The Stoics were not advocating for recklessness. In fact, they emphasized the importance of careful consideration before taking action. But once a decision is made, they encouraged immediate and decisive action. Why? Because life is short, and the opportunities we have today may not be there tomorrow. Think about your own life for a moment. What are you currently hesitating on? Is it a career change, asking someone out, starting a new project, or perhaps pursuing a long-held dream? What's holding you back? If it's fear of failure or the unknown, remember this: failure is not the opposite of success. It's a necessary part of it. Every failure brings you one step closer to where you want to be. The Stoics also believed that we should not be attached to the outcome of our actions. This doesn't mean you shouldn't care about success. It means that you should focus on the effort and leave the results up to fate. In Stoicism, this is known as Amor fati, the love of fate. Whatever happens after you take the risk, embrace it as part of your journey. So, how can you overcome the fear of risk-taking? The first step is to recognize that uncertainty is an unavoidable part of life. You can't control the future, but you can control your actions in the present. The Stoics believed in focusing on what is within your power, your thoughts, actions, and decisions. Everything else is beyond your control, so there's no point in worrying about it. Are there risks in life that you wish you had taken earlier? Imagine where you would be now if you had acted sooner. Now, imagine where you could be a year from now if you started today. The biggest risk is staying in your comfort zone where nothing changes and growth is impossible. Don't let fear dictate your life. As you think about this lesson, take a moment to reflect on the areas of your life where you've been playing it safe. What's one risk you can take today that will move you closer to the life you want? Stoicism teaches us that life is too short to live cautiously. Fortune favors the bold, and inaction is often the biggest mistake. Now, before we move on to the next lesson, I'd love to hear your thoughts. What risks are you currently facing in your life? How are you dealing with them? Leave a comment below and share your story. Let's inspire each other to take bold steps toward our goals. In the next lesson, we'll discuss why happiness is not something that happens to you. It's a choice that you make every day. 6. Happiness is a choice. We often think of happiness as something that comes from external sources, a good job, a nice house, a loving relationship. But the Stoics teach a radically different perspective. Happiness is not something that happens to you. It's a choice you make. In Stoicism, the pursuit of happiness is not about chasing pleasure or avoiding pain. Instead, it's about cultivating an inner sense of contentment that is independent of external circumstances. Consider this for a moment. How often do you tell yourself, "I'll be happy when..." Maybe you think you'll be happy when you get that promotion, when you finally buy that car, or when you find the right partner. But what happens when you achieve those things? Are you truly satisfied? Or do you find yourself setting new goals, always chasing the next thing? The Stoics understood that this kind of thinking is a trap, and it's one that many men fall into. Epictetus, one of the great Stoic philosophers, reminds us that there is only one way to happiness, and that is to cease worrying about things which are beyond the power of our will. In other words, happiness is not about controlling external events, but about mastering your own mind. The key to happiness, according to Stoicism, is focusing on what you can control: your thoughts, your actions, and your responses to the world around you. So, how do you make the choice to be happy, even in difficult circumstances? The Stoics would advise you to start by letting go of the belief that external things, money, status, possessions, can bring you lasting happiness. While these things may bring temporary pleasure, they are not the foundation of true contentment. Instead, the Stoics believed that happiness comes from living in alignment with your values and cultivating virtue in your daily life. But let's not mistake this for a passive acceptance of whatever life throws your way. The Stoic approach to happiness is active. It's about taking responsibility for your own well-being and refusing to let external circumstances dictate your mood. Think about the last time you let something small ruin your day. Perhaps someone cut you off in traffic, or you had a minor disagreement with a colleague. Did that situation really have the power to ruin your happiness, or did you give it that power? Marcus Aurelius often reminded himself that very little is needed to make a happy life. It is all within yourself, in your way of thinking. This doesn't mean that life won't bring challenges. Of course it will. But it means that you have the power to decide how you respond to those challenges. You can choose to see setbacks as opportunities for growth, or you can choose to let them bring you down. The choice is always yours. One way to cultivate happiness, according to Stoicism, is through the practice of gratitude. Gratitude shifts your focus from what you lack to what you already have. The Stoics believed that by regularly reflecting on the things you are grateful for, you strengthen your inner contentment and resilience. When was the last time you took a moment to appreciate the good things in your life, no matter how small they might seem? Another key aspect of Stoic happiness is detachment from outcomes. The Stoics were deeply aware that we don't control the results of our actions, only the actions themselves. Therefore, they taught that we should focus on doing our best in every situation, but not be overly attached to whether things turn out the way we hope. This frees us from the anxiety of trying to control the uncontrollable and allows us to find peace in knowing we've done all we can. Imagine how different your life would be if you stopped waiting for external things to make you happy. What if you could find contentment in each moment, knowing that you are living in accordance with your values and doing your best in every situation? This is the kind of happiness that the Stoics speak of, a happiness that is unshakable because it is rooted in the only thing you can truly control, yourself. So, the next time you find yourself thinking, "I'll be happy when," pause and reflect. Ask yourself, what am I waiting for? Can I choose to be happy right now, in this moment, regardless of what's happening around me? As the Stoics would say, the answer is always yes. Before we move on to the next lesson, I want to remind you that happiness is a daily practice. It's not something that just happens to you. It's something you cultivate by the way you live each day. In the comments below, I'd love to hear your thoughts. What small steps are you taking to choose happiness today? Let's inspire each other to live with more joy and contentment. Now, let's explore another vital lesson from the Stoic tradition: why it's crucial to do what you love and love what you do. 7. Do what you love and love what you do. How many men spend years of their lives in jobs or careers that don't fulfill them, waking up each day dreading the work ahead? Far too many. One of the key Stoic lessons is that your work should align with your nature and your values. It's not just about making a living, it's about living in a way that brings you closer to your purpose. Marcus Aurelius, who ruled over one of the most powerful empires in the world, understood the importance of meaningful work. Despite the immense pressures of his position, he wrote in Meditations about the need to find purpose in his duties. At dawn, when you have trouble getting out of bed, tell yourself, "I have to go to work as a human being. What do I have to complain of if I'm going to do what I was born for, the things I was brought into the world to do?" Marcus knew that when you find meaning in your work, even the most difficult tasks become bearable. But what if you're not passionate about your current work? Does this mean you should quit your job and pursue your passion without a second thought? Not necessarily. Stoicism teaches balance. While it's crucial to find work that aligns with your values, the Stoics also believed in fulfilling your responsibilities and doing your best, no matter the circumstances. If you're not currently in a position that you love, Stoicism encourages you to approach your work with a sense of duty and excellence. Take pride in doing the best you can with what you have. This doesn't mean you shouldn't aspire to something more fulfilling, but it does mean you should find value in whatever you are doing right now. Every task, no matter how small, can be approached with integrity and care. At the same time, the Stoics remind us not to waste time pursuing a career that is completely misaligned with our nature. Seneca once said, "It is not that we have a short time to live, but that we waste a lot of it." Many men fall into the trap of living someone else's life, choosing careers based on societal expectations, family pressures, or financial incentives, rather than what truly resonates with them. So, how do you find work that you love? Start by asking yourself what you value most. Is it creativity, problem solving, helping others? Stoicism teaches that by understanding your values, you can align your work with your nature. Once you're clear on what drives you, You can begin to seek out opportunities that bring you closer to that. But what if you're not sure what your passion is? The Stoic answer to this is simple. Experiment and don't be afraid to fail. Try different things, take risks, and see what resonates with you. The Stoics believed in taking action, not waiting for perfect clarity. Through action, you gain insight, and through insight, you find your path. Have you ever noticed how much easier it is to work hard at something you love? When you're doing work that feels meaningful, time flies, and you enter a state of flow. This is the kind of work the Stoics encourage you to pursue. It doesn't have to be grand or glamorous, it just needs to be aligned with your values and purpose. As you reflect on your current work, ask yourself, is this truly what I want to be doing? If not, what steps can you take to move closer to the work you love? Remember, life is too short to spend your days doing something that drains you. Stoicism teaches us to live with purpose, and that includes how we spend our time and energy in our work. In the next and final lesson, we'll explore the most powerful truth of all. Your mind is both your greatest asset and your greatest obstacle. How you train your mind determines the course of your life. 8. Your mind is your best friend and worst enemy. At the heart of Stoicism is the idea that your mind is the key to everything. It is both your best friend and your worst enemy. If you don't learn to master it, your mind will lead you into anxiety, fear, and self-doubt. But if you train your mind, it can become your greatest ally, guiding you toward wisdom, peace, and success. The Stoics understood that the mind is the most powerful tool we have. Marcus Aurelius, in his Meditations, constantly reminded himself that the happiness of your life depends upon the quality of your thoughts. What does this mean in practice? It means that the way you interpret events, rather than the events themselves, determines how you experience life. Think about it. Two people can experience the exact same situation, but their reactions might be completely different. One person might see a setback as a disaster, while the other sees it as a learning opportunity. What makes the difference? Their mindset. The Stoics believed that by training your mind to focus on what is within your control, and by accepting what is not, you could achieve a state of inner tranquility that is immune to external chaos. But how do you train your mind? The Stoics practiced daily reflection, often at the beginning and end of the day. They would ask themselves questions like, what did I do well today? Where did I fall short? How can I improve tomorrow? This kind of self-reflection helps you become aware of your thoughts and habits, giving you the power to change them. Have you ever noticed how easily your mind can spiral into negative thinking? Maybe you've had a small failure, and suddenly your mind starts telling you that you're not good enough, that you'll never succeed. This is your mind working against you, and if you're not careful, it can sabotage your efforts. The Stoics teach us to catch these negative thoughts and challenge them. Ask yourself, is this thought helping me, or is it holding me back? By training your mind to be your best friend, you start to develop resilience. You begin to see obstacles as opportunities for growth rather than as threats. And when life inevitably throws challenges your way, you don't crumble. You adapt and overcome. One of the most powerful Stoic techniques is to remind yourself that you are not your thoughts. Thoughts come and go, but they do not define you. You have the power to choose which thoughts you give attention to and which you let pass. When you cultivate this awareness, your mind becomes a tool that you control, rather than a force that controls you. As we wrap up this lesson, I encourage you to reflect on how your mind is influencing your life right now. Is it helping you reach your goals, or is it standing in your way? What steps can you take to train your mind to become your greatest asset? Stoicism teaches that this is the most important work you can do, and it's a lifelong practice. We've journeyed through 8 profound Stoic lessons that men often learn too late in life. From mastering your mind to choosing happiness, living in the present, and taking risks, each of these teachings has the potential to transform the way you live. But remember, Stoicism is not just a philosophy to read about. It's a way of life that must be practiced every day. If you've found these lessons valuable, I encourage you to take action. Reflect on the areas of your life where you can apply these principles. Leave a comment below with your thoughts. What lesson resonated with you the most? How will you start living more stoically today? And before you go, make sure to give this video a thumbs up if you found it helpful. Subscribe to the channel for more Stoic insights and share this video with anyone you think could benefit from it. Let's spread the wisdom of Stoicism and help others live with greater peace, purpose, and resilience. Thank you for watching, and remember, life is short, so live it well. Be present, be courageous, and make each day count. Until next time, keep learning and growing.